believe that despite the fact that they will give more weight to the military measures, I don't think that they will get away from the dialogue as well, because we understand that as of September, the talks on writing a new constitution will start. So I'm sure there will be dialogue with the pro-Kurdish party as well, in order to include them in the rewriting of the constitution. So while they will be increasing military measures, I do believe that they will not totally distance themselves from talking with the Kurds and trying to see if they can get some satisfactory results from the dialogue.
Certainly. Okay, now back to that's a very good point. Thanks for your rebuttal to my statement. Fadi, you're on to a subject about Syria and about the international interventions and the power vacuum left by a deposed Assad and what would fill it. Barchin, do you, in your opinion, does Turkey feel that is being pushed by the West to cripple the Assad regime by trade sanctions, or perhaps even something even greater, maybe a NATO strike as we saw in Libya?
No, I mean, look, Turkey has even rebuffed pressure on the UN sanctions for Iran. So I don't think that any country can really put pressure on Turkey for a military intervention, because when it comes to military intervention, come on, this is very serious, and you just don't go around and intervene in a country just because you are being pushed by outside forces. I think military intervention to Syria is a very, very last resort, and I think we are still far away from that. At least I can say that this is the most undesired option as far as Turkey is concerned. Traditionally, if you set aside cross-border operations to Iraq, which is about terrorism.
What about trade sanctions?
Pardon me?
About trade sanctions?
No, that is something else. Because it's important that you have asked about this military intervention, because we keep seeing in the foreign press, especially Western press, saying that, oh, Europe is struggling with economic crisis, Turkey is doing well economically, so it should be Turkey who should be dealing with Syria, and it should intervene militarily. I'm sorry, but military intervention has not solved anything. It hasn't solved anything in Afghanistan. It hasn't solved anything in Iraq. So this is a last option. But trade sanctions, obviously, I don't think that in this stage Turkey is being pushed towards trade sanctions. On the contrary, it will itself voluntarily.
Could Turkish government sit back while the Sunnis, the Syrian Sunnis, are being massacred in droves? Can they just sit on the sidelines and let that happen? I mean, politically, wouldn't that be very difficult for the ruling government, for any government in Turkey?
Well, correct. But the problem is, first of all, you have to try all the options in your hands in order to stop that, and you do not know whether your intervention might lead to a more bloodshed. And how can you then justify if you have, look at it. Turkey has not accepted to go to Iraq precisely because of the reaction saying, what are we doing there? Why are we going there? Okay, the reasons were different. But there could be a time where the Turkish public could say, what are soldiers doing in Syria? All right, there might be some turmoil in it, but we should stay away. And try to help the Syrian opposition, for instance, not by giving them arms, but by giving them safe haven in Turkey, for instance.
Okay, but in any case, let's say there are trade sanctions, not necessarily a military strike on the table. In any case, in the same situation we saw with Turkey having to decide on whether or not to domicile a missile defense shield, Turkey is being, I believe they're moving towards, or they could be, one could argue, experts say they're moving towards another crossroads decision. And Fadi, I'd like to throw this one out to you. Do you believe that Turkey is being directed towards a crossroads decision where it is going to have to choose to side with its traditional Western allies or to align itself with its new alliances eastwards, mainly Iran? And Iran and Assad regime have a very close relationship. The fall of Assad would be a tremendous blow to the Iran regime. Is Turkey approaching this crossroads moment?
It's important to note that Turkey's alliance with Iran and President Bashar al-Assad was an alliance of convenience, never a strategic alliance. It's been confused in the media and among policymakers and analysts that it was a strategic alliance. But really what brought them together was the Kurdish issue in northern Iraq. It made Turkey, Syria and Iran cooperate together to prevent a Kurdish and independent Kurdish state emerging in northern Iraq. Now what has happened is that the ongoing change in the Middle East, the so-called Arab Spring, is now tearing those relations apart. Turkey now has already made its choice. It's again a very strong partner of Washington, of the Sunni bloc, mainly Saudi Arabia, Egypt, the Gulf Arab states, vis-a-vis Iran and the Alawite regime in Syria. So I think that it's not that Turkey will have to make a choice. Actually, Turkey has made its choice, and its choice is pro-Western, pro-Washington, and pro-Sunni.
Actually, in order to add to what Vadi Hakura has said, is that I do agree that Turkey has made its choice, and it has not made its choice because it was pushed by its Western allies to do so unwillingly. On the contrary, I think Bashar al-Assad has pushed Turkey to take this decision. It wasn't the pressure, because if you say the pressure, then you have the impression that Turkey is doing this unwillingly. On the contrary, Turkey is going to willingly join hands with the Western alliance in order to put pressure on Assad, because all their calls for Assad to make the reforms have been rebuffed.
You mentioned earlier, Barshan, about Turkey perhaps making the soldiers marching into the north of Iraq. Now, Iraq is a sovereign state, and the West has put a decade of effort and blood and treasure in trying to build a functioning nation state. Now, don't you think the West would have some serious contention towards Turkey marching into the Kandil Mountains to eradicate the PKK?
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, let's put it into context. If you say that marching to the mountains, meaning a temporary occupation, etc., etc., I don't think we're talking about that. Most probably, we're talking about very limited military strikes towards northern Iraq. I don't think the problem would be with the West. I think the problem would be rather with the central government, Baghdad, and more so it will be the problem with the northern Iraqi administration, with which Turkey enjoys very good relations. But as dialogue with both central government in Baghdad and with the northern Iraqi administration is good, I would rather imagine that if there will be such a military operation, cross-border operations, they would certainly coordinate it with these two power centers. I'm sure there will be reactions, but because of this dialogue, maybe they can alleviate the concerns.
Mr. Hakura, do you believe that Turkey's cooperation with the Sunni bloc that you mentioned, would this make the West softer on Turkey making such an intervention in northern Iraq?
I think that with the withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq, that is expected to complete by the end of this year, and the fact that now Turkey has rejoined the Western bloc again, I do not foresee any major reactions in the West towards should Turkey intervene militarily in northern Iraq. I do fully agree that in the event of intervention, despite the hot, robust and muscular rhetoric from the Prime Minister, I do agree that Turkey will probably coordinate closely especially with the Iraqi Kurdish leadership, to avoid any misunderstanding and any major fallout from such an operation.
Okay, Mr. Hakura from Royal Institute for International Affairs in London, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And Barchin Yananch from the Hurriyet Daily News, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
We discuss how Kurdish gains towards integration into Turkey has been hindered by the PKK, a terrorist group with a separatist agenda for the Kurdish people. In Corridor 39, the Kurdish population spreads across Turkey and 3 of its neighboring countries, populating lands rich in vital natural resources, notably oil and water. For Turkey, stopping this terror is more than a domestic matter. It requires cooperation with its neighbors and sometimes a military intervention. Where this conflict or its resolution heads is the subject of future Corridor 39 programs. That concludes the series on the Kurds, Turkey, and the regional power balance. Look forward to seeing you next week.